Hello everybody, one more time. My name is Alex Centeno with Mercados Interactive Partners, and in this episode we're going to be using Photoshop, and we're going to be taking a look at how to correct images to use them as advertising or in advertising design. So for those of you wanting to become professionals in digital media design, these are the techniques that you're going to be using to use a regular image and transform an image that is being given to you, a photo given to you by a professional photographer, into the way that we use advertising images today. So of course that is the preamble to just tell you that images of course are not being used directly from the photographer in advertising. Those days are way gone, and now we use Photoshop almost on everything professionally to modify and to really tweak and make everything perfect so that the right branding and the right message is being sent out there. So these are the techniques that professionals use, and so I'm going to go through a couple of them today with you. Let's take a look. So here what I have is the finished product, and of course you can see that we have a skateboarder here, and we have like a little logo that we use here, and then we have like all sorts of modifications to the image. So this is the final product that we're going to be working on today. So let's get started. So the first thing here is that we're going to get rid of all this stuff. Okay, I'm going to hide the logo for now, and I'm going to get rid of all the different layers because we're going to be working from scratch. Okay, there we go. So we have a clean canvas here and just a regular logo that I downloaded from the web in PNG format. Other than that, we're starting from scratch. So I have an image here that I happened to stumble upon from stock exchange. So thank you guys for that. Stock exchange is sxc.hu, so you can find free images to use commercially there. And this is one image from their stock photos, and what we're going to do first is position the image so that we have it in the right proportions that we want. Perfect. And so you can decide exactly how you want to frame it, and so this is of course like just traditional stuff. Great. So the first thing that we can notice here in this image is that it is lacking a lot of contrast, and usually what we want to make an image very striking is we want to increase the traditional contrast and also micro contrast. Micro contrast usually is referred to as sharpening. Okay, so sharpening is really, in other words, micro contrast. So defining the separation between light sections of an image and dark sections of an image. And so what we want to do to make it more striking is increase the contrast, as opposed to decreasing the contrast or increasing harmony. So everything in digital media design is always about one of two things. One, increasing the contrast or the difference between things, or increasing the harmony. So if you have like a palette of colors, for example, and you have red, then you can make the other things similar to red so that you create a harmony. Or you can say, I'm going to create something that is red and then add a little bit of green to it. So that you're creating the most amount of difference in contrast. So what we're going to do here, of course, is increase the contrast. And so I'm going to duplicate this image by pressing Option or Alt and dragging and dropping up. You can, of course, do this also. And I'm going to delete this layer. You can just grab this and drop it into new layer icon here. And so you have a copy of this image, and we're going to be acting on the copy right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to use this layer just to define what the lightness is going to be for the entire composition, so that we can control it a lot better. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is go to the channels pane here. And I'm going to take a look by pressing Command 3, 4, or 5. So red, green, and blue channels, 3, 4, 5. By looking at each one of these, I can see which one is the one that I want to start with for better contrast. Red is, his shirt is black, his pants are black too. This one, green, is looking good. Blue, and you can see that the sky is not very contrasted. So, of course, it seems like the red channel is the one that has the most amount of contrast, and usually that is the case. So, because we have the red there, and we know that that's the one that is going to give us best contrast to start with, then we're going to start with that one. So that's all we're doing. We're really not copying any channels or anything. So let's go back to layers here, and what we're going to do is go here to the menu of image, and then we're going to go to apply image. First, what we're doing here is that we're going to right click right on top of the name here of the layer, and we're going to rasterize the layer so that we can apply an image to this. And you can see that the icon for the smart object is gone now. And so if we will go here to image and then apply image, we can apply any of the channels that we want. Okay, and so we could apply the green, the blue, or any other channels, custom channels that we would have been that we would have created already. But in this case, we're going to be using the red channel for this, and hit OK. And so now this image is all about the red channel. It's a copy of our red channel, and that's the one that we're going to use for the luminosity of the entire composition. So we're going to change here the blending mode to luminosity at the very bottom. Great, and you can see that actually the image is starting to look a lot different because the luminosity of the entire composition is now not coming from all the channels, but only from the red channel. That's fantastic news. Let's go ahead and turn off the base layer. You can see that you have like a black and white composition based from our red channel. And what we're going to do is we're going to burn the parts that are darker, and we're going to lighten the parts that are lighter to increase the contrast. Okay, so dodging light, burning darkness. Okay, so let's start with dodging. And so here we're going to select, of course, dodging, and then here at the top we're going to have a short brush, midtones, and exposure of 50%. Okay, if you start painting, you're going to see that, of course, the light parts of that are going to start getting lighter. Do this as much as you want, but try to stay in the parts that are lighter in the composition, okay? And the parts that we want to make lighter. You're going to do this, and of course, if you're working professionally, you want to be extremely careful in having specific detail of what are the parts that are most important to be prominent in the composition. You're gonna go in as you need to. Once you're in there, you're going to increase the lightness of those areas. And I know that maybe in the video it's a little bit difficult to notice that I am actually increasing that lightness, but believe me, it is happening. Do that with all the areas that we feel that need to be lighter. Of course, you can use other techniques to do this, just as using the blending mode on overlay and then painting with white or black in a layer. And maybe we'll do that in another video cast. But in this case, we're using these two tools, dodging, burning tools for this. All right. And now we're going to shift to the burn tool. We're going to do exactly the opposite, which is we are going to burn the parts that we want to be darker. Increase again the contrast. Do this, of course, in midtones, in shadows, or in highlights. Darker areas, of course, are going to be located mostly on midtones and on shadows. Affecting tones at this time. So everything that I feel like needs to be darker effect. And I'm not going to take too much time to do this anymore. I'm just like trying to demonstrate the technique so that you know exactly how to do it. But you can see that I'm actually affecting it very well. Everything that needs to be darker, indeed darker. And that's in the bottom. And now let's go ahead and do the same in the sky, which is a very prominent part of this image. You can see that parts of the sky are actually getting a lot darker. That's looking fantastic, actually. And you also can see that I'm not really, because the sky is somewhat random, I don't really need to be extremely cautious about how I use the tool. You can just go ahead. Just, of course, making sure that I'm using a soft brush so that I don't have ragged edges or anything. Perfect. It's looking great. Of course, you can go back and forth and increase or decrease whatever you think is too much or so forth. And again, if you're doing this professionally, make sure that you're doing everything as carefully as possible. You want to go into it and want to really be careful, because the value is in the details, in making this as detailed as possible. All right. Great. So that's the technique for traditional contrast. And of course, if we turn the layer underneath, we can see that it's a lot different now. This is the original layer. We turn on this one, we're going to see that it's already a lot different. So that's affecting contrast. The colors are still awful, so that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to copy this layer. Again, you can do it by holding the Option key and dragging, or you can just like drag into new layer here. And that's where I'm going to be doing. So here we have it. What I'm going to do is I am going to rasterize this layer. And this one is the one I'm going to be using for the color of the composition. And so I'll move from image mode to lab color. You're going to see in a second why. So I'm going to go ahead and rasterize those objects, and I'm not going to merge them. Merging would be to make the composition one as opposed to 3 layers. I don't want to do that, so let's go ahead and not merge at this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be modifying this layer. So make sure that you have this one selected. And I'm going to be modifying this to be the colors of the entire composition. So I'm going to set the blending mode to color. All right, great. And now I'm going to go to my adjustments and curves, which of course I can do with Apple M. Command key M. So that's what I'm going to do. So having here my curves panel, to go to my green and red channel A, and I'm going to take this point here and move it until the input is 100, and do the same at the upper end. Take this point, get it to 100. Of course, this point is minus 100. This one is 100. So I'm increasing the steepness of this line. by the same amount. I'm going to do the same with the B color, which stands for blue and yellow. So if I move this one to 100, I'm making the image turn a lot bluer. And if I do this, I return the image to its balanced yellow. So I'm keeping the ratio of the yellow and blue intact, except that now the contrast of the blue and yellow channel is increased, and same with the A channel. You can play with this. If 100 is not too much, then you can increase it. If it's too much, you can increase it, and so forth. So it's looking good, but I would like to see this to be a little bit better quality of blue. So what I'm going to do is select this tool right here, and now I can click in the blue that I want, and you can see that now I have a dot there. I'm going to create two other dots so that I don't modify any other part of the curve there, and drag and drop. You can see that I am indeed affecting only those blues. Entire company. Great stuff. Let's do the same with this reds right here. So I just click here once and then create two dots in the upper and lower side of the curve from that dot, so that when I modify, I'm just modifying. That reduces, of course, the contrast of the red, and that increases the contrast of the red. Perfect. That's looking great. So that is the color indeed. So this is controlling the color of the image. So as you can see, if I actually turn it off, that's traditional color. If I turn this one off, we go back to having no control over the contrast and no control over the color of the composition. Great. Finally, what I want to do is I want to control the micro contrast of the image so that we can sharpen it further. So one more time, I am going to copy this layer. This one is going to be the micro contrast layer. Okay, and for that, I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to Other, High Pass. So I'm going to be affecting it by applying a filter of high pass to that particular layer. Okay, and you can see here that high pass actually makes most of the layer gray, but it actually shows up my edges very well. So I'm going to select the radius of 1 pixel and hit OK. Now, one thing that I want you to notice here is that if I look at the image, this high pass doesn't get rid of the color, and sometimes introduces some halos in green and red. I go ahead and get rid of those by affecting the adjustments, hue and saturation, and I'm going to get rid of all the saturation of that layer. Now I don't have any halos of any color, but I still have the edges of the image. And that's great, because now I can, of course, like an overlay. And put this image. I know it's a little bit difficult to see how it's affecting it, but it's definitely increasing the sharpness in the micro contrast. So let me just show it to you here closer to the palm tree. That I think that it might be a good way of seeing the before and after. So before, after, before, after. You can see that it indeed changes how the micro contrast works. That's great. Now, of course, you can tone down the different effects because you have it in different layers. So you can say, okay, I want to reduce a little bit of the affected color. So you can reduce the opacity of that particular layer. You can affect the luminosity effect. Look natural. And of course, affect the micro contrast as well. Finally, we're going to take this logo, put it at the very top. pretty much the entire technique. Of course, you can, since you're affecting the whole thing, you can of course change the entire image by reducing all the different aspects of an image, like saturation, like vibrancy, like the contrast of the same image, and so forth. So you can still apply all the different filters and different things that you do, but this is how you control contrast, micro contrast, and color in different layers, so that of course you have a much better, more professional control over the composition itself, and that's how professionals do it. I hope that this has been helpful. Please don't hesitate to contact us at mercados.com, merkados.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.